There are moments in life that split your world in two, before and after. I never thought I would be the woman sitting on the cold bathroom floor at 2 in the morning, holding a small piece of plastic that was about to rewrite everything I believed about my marriage, my husband, and myself. My name is Sarah, and for 7 years, I was the woman who had it all, or so I thought. Daniel and I met in our late 20s. He was charming, steady, the kind of man who remembered your coffee order and held doors open without being asked. We built something real together, a home, a routine, a life stitched together with Sunday mornings and shared dreams of the future. We had been trying for a baby for almost 2 years, 2 long, exhausting, emotionally draining years of hope and heartbreak every single month. So when I started feeling different, tired in a way I couldn't explain, emotional over the smallest things, I let myself hope again. I didn't tell Daniel right away. I wanted to be sure. I took the first test alone, in the quiet of our bathroom while he was downstairs watching television. When the result appeared, my hands were trembling. I sat there for a long time, staring at it, not quite believing what I was seeing. Positive. My heart was so full in that moment, full of joy, full of relief, full of this overwhelming love for a life that had barely begun. I came downstairs with tears in my eyes, and Daniel looked up from the screen. When I showed him the test, something crossed his face, something I couldn't quite name then. I told myself it was shock. I told myself it was the same overwhelming emotion I was feeling. He smiled. He hugged me. He said all the right words. This is everything I've wanted. But something sat wrong in my chest that night, a quiet discomfort I kept pushing down. I told myself I was being paranoid, that years of disappointment had made me afraid to trust good news. So I bought a second test, not because I doubted the result, but because I wanted to see it again. I wanted to hold that confirmation in my hands one more time and let myself truly believe it. What I didn't know that night was that the second test wouldn't just confirm the pregnancy, it would confirm something else entirely, something that Daniel had been hiding from me for a very, very long time. And the moment I saw it, everything I thought I knew about my marriage shattered into silence. The next morning started like any other. Daniel made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table, watching him move around our home like everything was perfectly normal, like the world hadn't just shifted beneath my feet the night before. But I couldn't stop thinking about his face, that split second when I showed him the test, that flicker behind his eyes that disappeared too quickly. I told myself to let it go. I couldn't. That afternoon, while Daniel was at work, I went back to the pharmacy. I bought a different brand, more detailed, more specific, the kind that tells you not just if, but how long. I took it home. I followed the instructions carefully, and I sat on the edge of the bathtub, waiting. When the result appeared, I read it 3 times. Pregnant, 1 to 2 weeks, and the ground dropped out from under me. Because Daniel had been away for work for most of the previous month, a long project, 3 weeks in another city. He came home exactly 18 days ago. 1 to 2 weeks. The math was simple, brutal, undeniable. I sat in that bathroom for a long time, not crying, not moving, just sitting in the wreckage of a truth I wasn't ready for. Because this baby, my baby, could not be Daniel's. And the cruelest part, he had smiled, he had held me, he had said, "This is everything I've wanted." And in that moment, one of 2 things was true. Either he hadn't done the math I just had, or he had, and he simply chose not to say a word. Both possibilities destroyed me equally. I started going back through everything, the late nights, the business trips that ran longer than expected, the moments where he seemed distracted and distant. I had explained it all away, one excuse at a time, because I loved him, because I trusted him, because I chose not to see. But betrayal doesn't disappear just because you refuse to look at it. That evening, when Daniel came home, I was sitting at the kitchen table, calm on the outside,
completely hollow on the inside. He kissed my cheek and asked what was for dinner, and something inside me shifted, quietly, permanently. I didn't confront him that night. I needed to be sure of one more thing first. I needed to know who I was dealing with, the man I married or the stranger wearing his face. So I made a decision. I called my sister. I called a lawyer, and I started writing everything down. Every date, every absence, every inconsistency I had buried under years of willful trust. Because I realized something sitting at that table. Daniel wasn't just keeping a secret from me. He looked me in the eyes the night before, knowing everything he knew, and he had chosen his silence over my truth. That was the moment I stopped being the woman who hoped he would explain everything away, and I became the woman who was going to make sure the truth came out, all of it.
I gave Daniel one chance. One evening, about a week later, I sat across from him at the same kitchen table where we had shared so many meals, so many conversations, so many quiet, ordinary moments that I had treasured without knowing they were already broken. I slid the second test across the table. I watched his face. The silence that followed told me everything his words never would. He tried. He stumbled through an explanation, a name, a mistake, a moment of weakness he swore meant nothing. He reached across the table for my hand, and I pulled it back slowly, quietly, with a steadiness that surprised even me. "I'm not angry," I told him. "I'm just done." He didn't see the lawyer's letter until the next morning. He didn't know that I had already spoken to his employer, not out of revenge, but because part of his deception had involved financial decisions that affected both of us. He didn't know that I had documented everything, carefully and clearly, with the help of people who knew exactly what to do. He had assumed, the way people who betray others often do, that I would be too broken to think clearly, that grief would make me passive. He had misread me entirely. The process wasn't easy. There is no version of this story where it was easy. Divorce is grief, even when it's right. Even when you know leaving is the only honest choice, there are still mornings that hurt in ways you didn't expect. But I want to tell you something I learned on the other side of all of it. Your instincts are not paranoia. That quiet discomfort I kept pushing down, that small, persistent voice I spent months silencing, it was never wrong, not once. We are taught so often to trust, to forgive, to give people the benefit of the doubt, and there is beauty in that. But there is also a kind of quiet strength in knowing when to stop explaining away what you already know. The second test didn't just tell me the truth about my pregnancy. It told me the truth about my marriage, and in doing so, it gave me back something I didn't realize I had lost, myself. I am not the woman on the bathroom floor anymore. I am the woman who read the truth, sat with it, and chose to face it, clearly, calmly, and completely on her own terms. And if you are sitting somewhere right now holding your own version of a second test, a second look, a second thought, a second chance to see what was always there, trust what you already know. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the truth always finds its way.